Over 41 years in business and running over four businesses during that time as well. Welcome to the session, David. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
My pleasure indeed. We'll go straight into it. So, Move for Wellness, such a topical business to have. Tell us a bit more about what kind of services you're providing at the moment, David.
It is, in some respects, unique. It came back because during lockdown, people were not exercising. There's the idea of using Uncle Joe Wicks's exercise classes scared the bit out of most people of an older generation.
Mm.
We came up with the idea of creating an exercise program for people in their late 40s, early 50s, and upwards. No more than 2 minutes, 21 seconds a day, which because that's the length of a tweet. That's if you want to put a film on Twitter, that's how long you can do 2 minutes 21, unless you want to pay Elon a lot of more money, in which case I don't. Anyway, and the aim was to get people, and the business has grown to over 100,000 people now following and taking part on a daily basis, 5 days a week. We have growing other businesses where it's becoming a payable, whereas before it's purely set up to start as a charitable operation, but it's also like all charities, you have to raise money. And whilst the aim is to give, is the charitable bit, the other side, it has to be a commercial venture. And it's putting the years of experience I have over the years, from starting off as a hairdresser into promotional merchandise, into debt collection, into what we're doing now, that it all flows because it's all about providing the service that someone needs. And it doesn't matter what business you're doing, whether as a coach, I'm sure you find this, you get people from across the whole range. The problems for business are the same regardless of what the business is. It's how do you market it correctly? How do you make it financially viable? Because it costs everyone. When you set your own business up, it costs you money. You are a piggy bank to start with.
Yeah, and as you mentioned really important points, you've got a charitable arm to the business, but also you have a commercial arm to the business. How do you find right balance between the two? Because no doubt you've got to earn an income and a living as well.
This is what.
How are you finding a balance over here?
Well, you have to look at what is going to generate income. We have commercial sponsors, and I've set it up where only 40% of all the money we raise can be used for non-charitable funding. If we want more funding to be done for non-thing, then we have to find other avenues which will generate income. So one of the things that's happening is I'm actually retraining at the moment at 65 to become a fitness instructor, not for vanity's sake, because hey, I love fitness. It's because I'm then legally allowed to run classes, which means we can charge people for the classes, which means we can generate more income. But it also means raising income, raising funding, means you have to understand economics. If I go to someone about funding, let's say that I need a grant of 20,000 to set up launch an app, they're going to want to know about the cash flow forecast. What will that generate?
Yeah.
Is it going to generate income? Because if it's not going to generate income, why are they giving it? Because they are not a charity, they are a commercial fund. So you have to have the experience that you learn. If you're sensible, you learn over the years, and you don't stop learning. And you get to get, if it's very sensible, you work with the coaches when you start, and always have coaches available that allows you to ask them the question, am I right?
And talking of are you right? Clearly, after this many years of business and being involved in huge disparate areas, from you said you were being trained as a hairdresser, you ran a hairdressing business, to credit control, to merchandising, and now to this fitness business. I mean, I'm not sure if polar opposites is the wrong word, but they do seem like polar opposites. I mean,
paper, yes, I will grant.
Talk to me about the similarities and how you were able to transition from all these different businesses, because I'm sure there are business owners out there who may be running a business say, let's just put it A, finding is not the right thing for them. They want to go into B. I think, how do I make that jump? I mean, how did you make the
Let's,
jump across all these areas?
one of the things I would say to people is there was a book was given to me when I first started training to be a hairdresser. It's a classic. It's How to Influence and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I strongly recommend everyone to read this book. Forget the names of the participants because some of them are definitely out of favor. One of the characters, genuine lady, was called Fanny Hertz. That's a different story. Anyway, as a hairdresser, you have to find the pain. What is it that the client is looking for? And that I was at times a hairdresser, there was the Joanna Lumley look, there was the Princess Di look, and when women would come in wanting that style, and you had to manage their expectations. I eventually moved it first into jewelry and then into promotional merchandise. And this was the day before the internet. You couldn't just go online and find X, Y, and Z. So you would have people coming up and say, look, I want a pen. There's no difference from going to a garage and saying, I want a car. Great. How many wheels do you want? 3 or 4? What engine do you want? So the whole thing is about understanding the sales process. And it was always explained to me as you walking down a corridor, there are doors open, and you're going to enter a room to the first room. You're going to explore that with your client. And if there's something in that room that they like, don't go to the other rooms. But it may not be, and you have to move to the next one. So whether you are as a hairdresser or you're selling promotional merchandise, there's no difference. And there is no difference with debt collection and credit control, except what the client wants is not a pen or a new hairstyle. They want, more important, their money. And it's about manage the expectations to say, this is your pain, this is what you want, and this is the journey we're going to take. So when we started doing things like with wellness, it is the same principle. The pain for people is today's living. Now, you only have to go online, you go on to things like TikTok, you understand there's so much negativity out there. We have a society that, due to the very nature of the food that we generally buy, it's bad for you, it's full of chemicals which are no good for you. And we generally live a sedentary life because, let's face it, PE is what you did at school. You don't, most people get to a certain age, they don't want to go running. Running? Stupid, idiots. I'll watch the marathon, I'll go for a run, but they will say they go and buy a pair of plimsolls, they'll go for a run, or trainers. Not understanding that you need to have other equipment for it. They lose interest, but the pain is still there. So it is a question of identifying where the problem is and finding a solution. But don't make a solution and try and find the problem to go with the solution.
Awesome. How many business owners do you come across, have you come across, who are passionate about a solution, but not really addressing the pain? Because you seem to have the nail on the head by finding the pain, creating or find a solution, and then marrying them together rather than,
Sadly, far too many don't understand that, or they understand the pain, but they're not prepared to understand what you need to do to get through that pain.
Yeah.
How many people, when you're talking to them as a coach, have they got their terms and conditions right? How many people do you deal with who have got an outstanding invoice but won't seek the outside help, a third party, because they don't want to lose the relationship they believe they have with their client, not understanding?
Yeah.
So, as I said, it doesn't matter what we're doing. There's no difference between anybody in any business if you understand what the pain is and are prepared to look for a solution, work probably more often not working with someone who can help. Because let's face it, you decide you want to open up a car showroom, for instance, because you love cars. You've never run a showroom, but you love, so you buy, God, let's think of one that's gone out of buy, but Perry's. There's an old-fashioned dealership. I don't think they exist anymore. And you go and buy the franchise of Perry's because you've got money, you love cars, but you have no idea about just how to run a business, how to rates or whatever they are, these NDRs. You don't understand about salaries and wages, because just because your mechanic wants £5,000 a day and you may be making £8,000 a day, you figure about things like national insurance.
Yeah.
All the things that can suddenly take you from what on paper is a profitable business to a business that is losing money.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always say to anybody, if you're going into business, spend time, talk to people, find people that you can trust and who can mentor you. And the amazing thing is, if you're prepared to let other people help you, give away your baby, for want of a better word. Because let's face it, when you set up a business, it's your baby. You've given to it. This is my precious. It's Lord of the Rings, my precious.
Yeah.
Give that precious and let other people help change that baby's nappy. Let's educate it. When children, we as parents don't bring in the world a newly formed adult with cognitive threat. We bring a screaming, pooing,
I
gurgling.
love the analogy of let somebody else change your baby's nappy. I mean, hey, look, if I had a baby, I'd let you change the nappy all day long. I don't want to do that myself.
No,
But
trust me, I've done that one. I don't want to do that one. I've done that one. I won't even change my.
I've done that
I
before.
don't even get to
But
my granddaughter's nappy these days.
gosh, but talking of babies, one last question before we wrap up. We've got a minute left. Um, what would be some advice you'd give your 18-year-old David who just left school and college going into business? If you had to look back all those years, what one piece of advice would you give yourself to help you really skyrocket your career?
Find a mentor.
Mhm.
Find someone who you respect, who is involved in the business that you want to be involved in, and sit and talk to that person. It's networking. It's all about networking. You need to find that one person that can help you understand what you're going into
Mm.
and be there just to speak to them. And then reverse it as you get to older, as you become an older person, be prepared to give your time and knowledge to the 18-year-old.
Brilliant. Not just about taking, it's all about giving as well, giving back, because
Absolutely.
ultimately it's essentially college, isn't it? David, you've been absolutely amazing. So many pearls of wisdoms you've shared that I've noted down, and no doubt the listeners today are going to get some good value from you again. Let's go back to changing nappies. I'll give you my kid, he can change theirs. Thank you very much, David. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you.